What is up, y'all, and welcome back to Scotty Holiday 2. My name is Scotty Holiday. I'm a queer creator and a huge Star Wars nerd, so if you're into either one of those things, please consider subscribing to my channel. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Andor Episode 6, called The Eye. This whole episode had me on the edge of my seat, and the tension only got more intense as the events of the episode played out. We got to see the more aggressive side of the rebellion in this episode too, which I loved, and overall, this episode was just stunning to look at from beginning to end. Before I get started with my episode review, please make sure to like this video and leave a comment letting me know your thoughts on the new episode. I'm putting out weekly reviews for each new episode of Andor as they air, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. I've added a link in the cards and in the description to my Andor Series playlist, so you can check out my previous reviews as well. Now, let's go ahead and dive into episode 6. So, in the beginning of the episode, we start off with Sweet Boy Nemik stressing the morning of the mission, and I can't tell y'all how much I related to him in this moment. We even see a cute moment between him and Cassian where Cassian is comforting him and reassuring him that everything will be okay in the end, but we know how the episode ends up, unfortunately. We meet Commandant J-Hold, who is head of operations at the depot, and he basically introduces us to the Aldhani people as they make the trek to the Sacred Valley. He has a complete disregard for them, not surprising to anyone, saying they're simple people and vulnerable to manipulation, which we learn the Empire has been doing to slowly drive them out of the valley. He talks about how they've placed comfort units made up of shelters and taverns along the trek, which were really just another place for the Aldhani people to stop and swayed them from continuing their journey to the Sacred Valley. We're told this is also the last time the Aldhani people will be allowed in their own Sacred Valley, and the Commandant even jokes that if they come back, they can be used to build the new Imperial airbase there. He states that the Aldhani people would rather suffer than accept, and the Empire is using this to their advantage to continue to exploit them. I couldn't help but draw parallels from the Empire and the Aldhani people to the settlers and Native Americans, and I think this was done on purpose. As we've seen throughout Star Wars, the Empire is no stranger to colonialism. We see them time and time again taking over planets, exploiting resources, and completely disregarding any life forms that may be living there. We also get to learn a little bit more about Tamaryn and Cinta in this episode too. Skeen informs Cassian that Tamaryn was a stormtrooper, and on top of that, we learn that Cinta's entire family was slaughtered by stormtroopers, and I can only imagine how that conversation went between the two of them. We're introduced to the Commandant's wife, Rabota, and their son in this episode. His son mentions not feeling well, and while his wife Rabota is quick to come to his aid, but all Commandant J-Hold can do is dismiss them both. He's more worried about making a good impression for Colonel Pettigar than the feelings of his own family. Further exploring these family dynamics we keep seeing popping up in the series, and I loved seeing the Commandant try to put on his sash in the mirror, saying it no longer fits due to being compressed by storage, when we really know he's just fat and satisfied. Catching up with the Rebel team, once they're in uniform, things really start to get going. All the little passing looks the other soldiers give the undercover rebels stress me the fuck out, but as Cassian said in the series premiere, all you have to do is just walk in like you belong. During the moment where the Commandant inspects the undercover rebels, asking if they're from Malkenzie, I was holding my breath the entire time, but luckily they made it out okay. I also loved Cinta and Vel's kind of Jedi Fallen Order Kenobi-esque swim underwater to the depot, and overall just seeing the two of them work together. At the beginning of their infiltration of the base, Cinta seems to be the more confident of the two, and Vel is seen stalling and hesitating, but I totally get it. This is a huge job that they've been training for God knows how long, and I'd be stressing too if I was in their position. I really love the shot also of them jumping down the side of the dam together. That was just so cool looking. Despite things running a little behind, so far, everything seems to be going smoothly. Once our group enters the base, we get a little fake out with a hesitant Nemik. Can't blame him for being nervous because that would totally be me. Badass Cinta takes out Colonel Pettigar, and any doubts I had about Vel before went out the window at this point because she turned on her true badassery and completely took charge of the mission. I love the little intimate moment between our space girlfriends Cinta and Vel with the hand-holding and the longing stares. At this point, there's no way you can argue they're not together, and they're so cute. Vel asks Cinta if she'll be alright, and she says, "I'll be fine." Little do we know, this will be the last time they see each other, and who knows how long that will be. Once they arrive at the vault, the team wastes no time getting inside and getting the few guards, plus the Commandant, to start hauling trays into the freighter. This whole scene felt so frantic and stressful, and I could really feel the race against the clock. I think the cinematography really helped convey the urgency and pressure in these scenes too. Even though the rebels jam the comms, the Imperials are able to figure out about the breach of the vault, and at this point, I knew something bad was going to happen, complicating their escape. Once Lieutenant Gorn arrives at the vault, I love his interaction with the Commandant. He tells Gorn, "You'll hang for this," and in response, Lieutenant Gorn says, "7 years serving you? I deserve worse than that." But then he dies shortly after, pretty unceremoniously. We get a really intense shootout between the rebels and the Imperial soldiers, which really added to the stress of the mission since we know they definitely didn't have time for this, and they end up losing Tamaryn in the fight as well. Watching the freighter take off with Cassian, Skeen, Vel, and Nemik inside felt like watching a roller coaster launch, and with that launch, the crew goes flying backwards. Poor Nemik gets pinned between the trays, and the sound it makes on impact is literally bone-crushing and heart-crushing. I'm honestly surprised he survived as long as he did afterwards, and I'm sure it's only thanks to the med spike Vel gives him. I totally forgot about the fact that they needed him to navigate the ship through the storm, and sweet baby Nemik really did his duty until the end. I kind of expected him to die in this episode like so many other people were anticipating, but I really held out hope when he boarded the ship with the remaining crew members. The intensity of the mission and the escape is really juxtaposed by the beautiful shots of the Eye of Aldhani taking place and the awestruck expressions of the people watching from the ground below. And just in case y'all forgot like I did, Cinta didn't leave with the rest of the group. We see her emerge in an Imperial uniform outside of the depot, heading towards the crowd near the ancient temple. Now, I'm not sure if this was planned or not, but I'm really sad that she's left behind. Once our team is safely into space, they discuss the prospect of saving Nemik. Vel's worried that stopping could jeopardize their mission, but Skeen gives a whole speech about how Nemik is the only reason they're alive and blah blah blah, and I was really happy that Skeen stood up for him in that moment, and I really believed it. But once they make it to the doctor, we learn of his true intentions. He uses the stop to distract Vel and entices Cassian to steal the ship and split the credits. Now Cassian questions his motives and the story about his brother, which Skeen reveals to have all been a lie. He tries to reason with Cassian, saying, "You're just like me, we were born in the hole, and all we know is climbing over somebody else to get out." But instead of joining him, Cassian decides to kill him. So even though Cassian's not the hero we know he eventually becomes in this moment, I think what drove him not to take Skeen's offer was the outcome of the options it presented. Cassian has been trying to escape the hole he's been living in throughout his entire life so far, and I think he realizes taking Skeen's offer will just keep him in that hole and continue the never-ending attempt to climb out of it. Sure, he's no rebel at this point, but I feel like this scene shows him taking those first steps. In the end, Cassian tells Vel he's taking his cut and leaving since his job is done. Vel gives him Nemik's manifesto, insisting that Nemik wanted Cassian to have it, and though he's reluctant, Cassian eventually takes it. I was really hoping he would complete the mission with Vel after refusing Skeen's offer, but unfortunately, he doesn't seem ready to be a rebel just yet. I kind of felt bad for Vel in this moment too, because literally everyone she had been working and building relationships with for so long is now gone or dead, and she had to leave her girlfriend behind. But at least neither of them was killed in the episode. After the heist, we also catch up with the ISB, who have just learned about the incident on Aldhani and are having an emergency meeting, or not a meeting as Major Partagaz says. And I really wanted to be like, Dedra tried to tell y'all something was going on, but y'all didn't want to listen to her. So the final scenes I wanted to talk about showed us Mon Mothma within the Senate chamber, and though they were brief, they had so much to say in so little time. As she's giving her speech, I caught myself looking around at the other pods, noticing a lot of them were empty, and even Mon Mothma notices this as she's speaking. We see other senators chatting amongst themselves and even leaving the meeting mid-session, and these shots really convey how the Senate at this time is nothing more than a ruse to make the people of the galaxy think there's still some form of democracy under Imperial rule. The senators know they have little to no power, hence why so many of them don't even bother to show up to the session. It also seems like news of the rebel mission on Aldhani is spreading, as we see multiple senators, including Mon Mothma, reaching for their tablets to read about the news. And these scenes were also a huge departure from what we see of the Senate in the prequel films, and I love that we got to see this change on screen. Now, a few last things I wanted to mention before getting into some speculation for the future episodes of the series. First and foremost, I have to commend the cinematography and the special effects work that brought the Eye of Aldhani to life in this episode. It was honestly stunning to look at, and I'm so glad we got to see it happen. Secondly, many others have been talking about this, and I have to agree, in only 3 episodes, the Andor series has made TIE fighters truly terrifying, and I'm so here for it. So from here, where do we go next? Cassian tells Vel his job is done, he's got his money, so I think he's going to try to go back to his life on Ferrix. Cassian still doesn't believe in the rebellion at this point, so for him, I think he expects to just kind of forget everything he learned over the past 3 days and move on. But I think things will change when he sees how the Empire has completely taken over Ferrix. I think he'll start recognizing similar situations to the other rebels' experiences with the Empire on his own planet, seeing this happen to the people he cares about, and I believe this is what will get the wheels turning in his head. Plus, reading Nemik's manifesto, of course. He has it, so I fully expect him to read it at some point. I don't think Cassian will be able to stand by and watch his home get torn apart, especially after what he saw happen on Kenari during his childhood. Like, talk about trauma. After this episode, I also feel like Mon Mothma is going to start coming to terms with the fact that she has no power to enact change in the Senate, and will have to start fighting against the Empire in a completely new way. I want to see what's next for Luthen, and I hope to see him and Vel reunited and learn more about their relationship. I'm still holding out that Vel is his daughter, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think she'll vouch for Cassian, having recognized his importance to their mission's success, causing Luthen to try to recruit him in the future. I also hope she goes back for Cinta because I just want them to have a happy ending, especially as queer characters. I'd love to see them team up again with Cassian or go on another, potentially more dangerous mission. We know Luthen reaches out to Saw Gerrera at some point, so maybe we'll see them all working together. Who knows, but things can only continue to get more intense from here, and I am so excited to see what's next in the series. So what are your predictions for what will happen next? Where do you think Cassian's gonna go from here? Let me know down in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter so we can chat more about it. I'm putting out weekly reviews for each new episode of Andor as they air, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. I've put a link to my Andor series playlist with all my previous episode reviews in the description and on the end screen of this video, so please consider checking them out and leaving a like. I really appreciate all of your support so much. Make sure to like this video as well and consider subscribing to my channel for more Star Wars content. To keep up with my latest updates, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.